I'm Michelle Steele, and from the sounds of it, Peyton Manning is set to become the Broncos' new franchise quarterback, according to ESPN sources, in a deal that may also result in Tim Tebow being dealt away from the Denver Broncos. Here to talk about paying the price and the business of the Broncos is Scott Minto. He's the director of the Sports Business MBA at San Diego State. And Scott, I want to hit the ground running here. Talk to us about the business of the Broncos. Why does getting Manning instead of Tebow make business sense?
It makes business sense because it makes football sense, Michelle. You have a team that barely won a number of games, had to go to overtime several times to make the playoffs, and then still went on the road and had an overtime victory. You get one of the best NFL quarterbacks in history, if not the best, and you add that to a defense that's very strong in a division that's very weak. It makes football sense to bring Manning in, and as a result, it makes business sense. So you have the potential now to win that division and thus host a playoff game instead of going on the road, and you have the opportunity to do all those things that will bring money into the Broncos organization other than selling seats. They don't need to do that because the games are already sold out, but you have potential new sponsors. You can re-up your deals with existing sponsors and just get the fever pitch going in Denver even more so than it was under Tebow.
So from what you're saying, a proven player like Peyton Manning, who is arguably one of the greatest to have ever played the game, is going to be worth more to a team in terms of sponsorships and endorsements and ticket sales than someone like Tim Tebow, who is an aberration as far as from a marketing perspective, a guy who draws fans seemingly everywhere he goes?
Yeah, I think from a sample size perspective, Tebow's 2011 was interesting to watch, but he still barely got by and had a lot of halves of football that were just awful from a quarterbacking perspective. Now, the team continued to win, but there's no way of saying that's guaranteed to be sustainable in 2012, and I think John Elway knew that all along. But bringing in a guy like Peyton Manning, now, if his neck holds up, that's the big if his neck holds up and he is healthy, that gives you much more of a chance to win, and going into the season, you have that much more excitement where people knew the Broncos were good, but they were scraping by on some magical plays and some daring do of Tim Tebow. But in order to really get that going and have people line up and make more of an investment in the club and the Denver community, you have to say, look, we have this Hall of Famer in waiting under center this year, and if we made the playoffs last year, imagine what it's going to be like for this year. So you get the business community in Denver really chomping at the bit to get involved with the Broncos over perhaps doing more business with the Rockies or the Avalanche or the Nuggets.
So you think that Manning can mean more from a business perspective to the Broncos organization than Tebow?
Absolutely, no question. Because Tebow was a very popular player in Denver. Now we're saying was, but he hasn't even left yet. But he was also very polarizing. For everybody that absolutely loved Tim Tebow, there are a lot of Tebow haters out there. And for whatever reason, even though he's widely regarded as the nicest guy in football, you had a lot of people who really just didn't agree with him, whether it was the religious aspect of his personality or the things that he'd go out and say and stances that he'd take. You had people that really weren't Tebow fans. With Manning, you just don't see that. He's very likable even among people who do not like the Colts. He's hosted Saturday Night Live and done very well. He's one of the top 10 highest athletes in terms of endorsements worldwide. So you have these people that don't like the teams that he plays for that actually like him as a person, and I would count myself among those people. He's a great athlete. He's a good ambassador for the game, and he's just a funny, likable guy anywhere you see him.
How much more do you think Manning could be worth to the Broncos this year?
It'd be hard to put a dollar figure on it. I don't know what the Broncos' revenues splits are, what they bring in sponsorship revenue, but it could be in the millions of dollars easily, and that has nothing to do with their extra seats that they're selling. They're a team that sells out. The people are passionate about the Broncos in Denver. The secondary market's going to go off the charts, but unfortunately I don't believe the Broncos will see any of that. But there'll be some pretty happy season ticket holders or secondary market sites in Denver that are going to really reap the rewards.
Sure. As you said, the Broncos do sell out pretty much from the first day of the season. Of course, they will be selling a lot more Manning jerseys, but of course that merchandising revenue is shared by every team in the league. So some very happy people, I'm sure, in the league office. At any rate, Scott Minto, thanks so much for joining us again. He is the director of the Sports Business MBA at San Diego State. I'm Michelle Steele. Thanks for watching ESPN.com.